Ron Warner. Before you head to the grocery store, a word of warning.
Florida is seeing a sudden surge in foodborne cyclosporiasis cases, now totaling at least 60 infections statewide. Local health departments have confirmed at least 5 cases in Miami-Dade, 5 in Broward, 4 in Orlando, and 2 in the Tampa area. Investigators say the parasite is usually found on unwashed cilantro, basil, berries, bagged salads. So experts say guard your kitchen, scrub your produce with a clean produce brush. But note, this only reduces the risk of transmission, doesn't fully eliminate it. The cyclospora parasite can stick tightly to your leafy greens and fruits. Natalie Rodriguez, Miami.
President Trump will address the nation in a primetime speech on Thursday.
Speaking from the Oval Office Tuesday, he confirmed that election integrity will be among the things he will cover in his speech.
It's really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up.
On Monday, Amos Now reported that the president will claim that declassified intelligence reveals a foreign nation's plot to interfere in the 2020 election. Trump will reportedly be joined by FBI Director Kash Patel and Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, among others. The president has repeatedly claimed that the 2020 presidential election was stolen and rigged. I'm Mark Mayfield.
For the first time since Florida brought back the death penalty, 2 executions are scheduled to happen on the same day.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wants James Duckett put to death by lethal injection at noon on July 28th. That same day, he wants Dominic Occiocone executed at 6 p.m. Duckett was convicted of the 1987 murder and sexual assault of an 11-year-old girl. Occiocone has spent 4 decades on Florida's death row. Now 80 years old, lawyers for the double murderer argue that he's too old and sick to be executed. I'm Rory O'Neill.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Health officials are warning that the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo is accelerating, with nearly 2,000 confirmed cases and more than 700 deaths reported. Aid groups say the virus is spreading faster than response efforts can keep up. Several countries, including the United States, have tightened travel restrictions to help limit the risk of international spread. A Southern California-based company just received approval to test a space mirror.
Last Thursday, the FCC issued a license to Reflect Orbital, an energy company based in Hawthorne. The mirror would reflect sunlight to the dark parts of Earth. It's only allowed to deploy 1 satellite at a time. Several entities argued against the approval of the license for reasons including radio frequency interference and space debris mitigation. That includes astronomers and wildlife experts who warned the reflected light could distract airplane pilots, wreak havoc on astronomical observations, and interfere with circadian rhythms. The FCC says there is a minimal risk of harm to society. I'm Daniel Martindale.
A 67 million year old Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil named Gus hit the auction block.
Opening bids at Sotheby's in New York started at $19 million and soon soared to a record-setting $50.1 million. The previous record for a fossil sold at auction was a Stegosaurus that went for just shy of $45 million back in 2024. Gus was found in South Dakota in 2021 and restored over the course of several years. It's considered one of the most complete T-Rex fossils ever discovered. I'm Mark Mayfield.
I'm Ron Warner, USA Radio News.
You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle. Call 800-209-4580 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-4580. That's 800-209-4580.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, otherwise known as the Three Angry White Guys. Oh, geez. So, yeah, it's another Wednesday night. We are here. Todd was roaming around here somewhere. Let me see if I can grab him. He's going to make a quick presence, but he's going to be away at an event this evening. Hey, Todd,
yeah,
how
you got
doing?
me there, guys? How are you?
Great.
Can you see where I'm at here? I'm at a farm in Kingsport, Tennessee. We're here at the Sullivan County, Tennessee Republican, or actually Republicans of Tennessee, or Kingsport Patriotic Picnic. It's an annual event. So anybody and everybody running for office in this area is here right now. So I'm just here, just going on live real quick, saying hello, and appreciate you guys for holding down the fort for me. And I apologize for not being able to be there.
Oh, awesome, man. So, yeah, doing the good work out there in Tennessee, making sure that the right people get voted or supported and all the good stuff, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely, for sure. And we got some people representing the gubernatorial candidates. I mean, we've had some major issues in our state with our top two front runners, John Rose and Marsha Blackburn. But you also have Monty Fritz, who we've had on the show, who have representation here. And he's actually one of those guys that's looking to surge in the last few days of voting. We have early voting starting here very soon. The election's on August 6th. So we'll see what happens on August 6th. But tonight's turnout's going to be very big here.
So, yeah, I'm looking at that field, and it's looking a little sparse out there, Todd. Oh, there they are. I see a bunch of cars and stuff.
Yeah, there's cars back here. There's cars parked way up here and way down that way. They have what do you call them? APVs or whatever they call them, or personal vehicles, little Bobcats.
Oh, yeah, yep. UTVs or something, yeah.
Yeah, ATVs. There you go. I don't know why I said APV. ATV, sorry.
Yeah, man. So you just kind of broke away, found a spot of your own to talk for a sec, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I just walked out toward the parking lot real quick as they're bringing people in. People are signing in. There's people pulling into the parking lot. I think down by the road, there's several cars trying to get into the field. So let me jump off here. I appreciate you guys holding down the fort, though.
All right, man. Have a good time.
All right, see you guys. Take care, Colonel.
Well, that was interesting. I want that farm.
Yeah, that looked like a nice farm. I'll tell you what, they have their events at the nicest of places.
No doubt. I'm in the wrong business.
So, Chris, we do have some guests waiting to come in. We're going to talk a little bit about the mysteries of the medical industry this evening. Did you have anything on your mind before we bring them in?
Well, the coin is trying to go forward, the commemorative coin for 250 years of President Trump's image on it. You know, they want to do paper currency, but they'd have to change the law. But they can do commemorative coins, and they're going to make a US $1 coin, which is not made out of any precious metals, but it will have a gold-like finish on it, kind of a light bronze color. So that's coming up. It's all on. It's on like Donkey Kong. The war is on full speed with blockade is in effect again. In addition to that, Trump said today he's willing to wipe them out like he wiped out ISIS, and I'm all for it. So, hey, let the bombs fall where they may. 5 nights of consecutive attacks. In fact, today we did daylight raids on the Iranians. And so I hope this thing gets over quickly because we need to start focusing on November's election.
You're getting up to 2 raids a day now.
Yeah, daytime and nighttime. I love it. Like 24 hours a day. Let's keep them off their game.
Yeah, keep the pressure on. Also, we just took out a ship, tried to get past this blockade. I guess they thought they could be sneaky, and they found one right in the smokestack.
Oops.
Yeah, oops. They ain't going anywhere. They're done for a while.
Yeah, well, they won't be doing that again anytime soon.
Nope. I imagine they're getting towed in somewhere, probably with a military escort and a military crew, and gonna have fun days for them.
Well, that's what they deserve. These are nasty people, and they need to be dealt with. They need to be dealt with, and it's long overdue. It gets annoying when the government doesn't deal with issues that need to be dealt with. But anyway, they're looking at it.
Yeah. All right. So we do have Rebecca Charles. Let me bring her in, and we also have. Let me see if I can say his name right. John Beaudoin. Did I get it?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, Beaudoin. It's Beaudoin.
Beaudoin. I knew I was going to mess it up. But hey, you can see
fine.
my last name up there. People do it to me all the time. So I understand it's kind of difficult sometimes. I think Rebecca might be stepped back for a minute. I'm not sure what's going on. So, John, you want to open up a little bit and tell us a little bit about what has been going on?
Well, Rebecca's been in this fight for like 4 years. The hospital down in Long Island basically murdered her daughter. She was learning disabled and couldn't really speak for herself and advocate for herself. So when they got Rebecca, her mom, out of there, because, it's COVID and all, so the family can't attend, they basically started protocols to kill her. Her breaths, I have the medical file. I viewed it about 3 years ago. I wrote a couple of books. It's in one of my books. That's why she asked me to come on tonight. Her breathing rate, 15 breaths per minute. Her temperature was normal. Her blood pressure was normal. Her heart rate was normal. They put her on remdesivir immediately just based on a positive COVID test. And she did have breathing that went, her oxygen level was like varied from like 92 to 96%. So by the time they put her on the ventilator, she was normal. They suppressed her breathing with the drugs and the protocol that the CDC put forth. Well, it looks like Rebecca's here, so I don't want to.
Go on, John. Go on. My camera is going haywire. Hold on.
Okay.
I'll remove her until she gets it. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I thought she was wearing a hood of some sort there. Looked like some kind of. It looked like some kind of satanic ritual was about to happen. I didn't figure that one out.
Well, thanks for making me laugh. Thank you, everyone, for having us on. Thank you, John, for joining. I'd let John start because he did a lot of work on this, and let me catch my breath.
All right. John, would you like to continue? Fill us in on what exactly went on.
Sure. So you guys probably don't know me. I've written a couple of books, 150 articles, about 150 podcast interviews. I have 1.6 million non-redacted death records from 3 states, and nobody else in the world has that. And when Rebecca gave me the medical file to view, she had already had a nurse go over it, found the same thing. And now doctors have gone over it. And there's really no question that the things that the hospital did was to get funding. Now, there was special funding under, it's called the New COVID Treatment Add-on Payment Plan under CMS. You get 20% adder to the entire hospital bill if you can use certain drugs. One of them is called remdesivir. Everybody knows that name, but the brand name is Veklury. So if you see it in records, you have to look for both Veklury or remdesivir. Another one is baricitinib, which is Olumiant. You've heard of Paxlovid. That's the brand name. That's ritonavir with nirmatrelvir in it. And then molnupiravir is the drug name that everybody knows. That's Lagrevio. So for all those drugs and ventilators, they highly incentivize the use of them. That's a behavior modification to get doctors and hospitals to lean on to get hospital administrators to lean on the doctors to use this protocol and no other. And they did. And they used it sometimes a little too, a little too much, a little too jubilantly. We're going to get a lot of money if we use this. So they did. And in this case, they killed her. There's no question about it. When you go over the data, and Rebecca, it's difficult to find a lawyer that'll take a COVID case. There's a lot of laws and a lot of things that go on. And the medical certification boards, the American Board of Internal Medicine, Family Medicine, they go after the doctors who speak up for people, and they go after the lawyers, the Bar Association. I heard you guys are in New Hampshire. I'm in Winchester right now, south of Keene.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, we're out of Nashua, New Hampshire. So this is broadcasting live. This is a terrestrial radio show, WSMN out of Nashua, New Hampshire. And so you're not too far away.
That's great. I did a 2-hour testimony in your House committee for COVID about 2 years ago. Also sat down with the Attorney General, John Fromella, for 45 minutes. Different discussion. But when I say I have the evidence, or Rebecca has the evidence of the case, there's no question about it. It's really a matter of supply and demand for lawyers, and the demand is there. The supply was shut down by various, the American Bar Association, the various state bar associations don't want the lawyers to take the cases. There's a lawyer here in New Hampshire, fantastic lawyer. He sued the governor, Sununu, over the mask mandate. So what did they do? They went back into his past, found something, and what would be a slap on the wrist, they took his license to practice for 6 years. He just happens to be Ron DeSantis' law school roommate from Harvard. They were good friends. He was in his wedding party. These are the types of things that caused Rebecca to have a really difficult time finding lawyers. Well, she finally got a lawyer, but the lawyer has to go back through the case and try to save things because of statutes of limitations and time. There's a lot of procedural hurdles that you have to pass. So that's where she is right now, trying to keep her case alive in a situation where the judges don't want to hear it. They've moved on from COVID, don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to know that if they go to the hospital and there's an incentive from the government, that the doctors will kill you. And I'm not like, oh, this is what I do. I say conspiracy theories and I go out and I try to complain. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this. I want a world in which I think the doctors are going to help me again. I want to go back to that feeling that when I walked into the hospital, I felt as though I was going to get taken care of. Well, that was a nice feeling. It's gone.
I think you're harmonizing with people. I think you're striking a nerve for most people, because we've talked about this in the past, haven't we, Chris? Where there's incentives for hospitals to find COVID patients. We talked about the guy in the motorcycle crash who perished in the crash, and he said, well, he died of COVID, because there were financial incentives for them to find these patients that died of COVID, or they were treating them for COVID. So, it's been spoken about quite a bit. I think anybody that's had any kind of conscience in this has been aware of that, and at least give it a little bit of consideration, if not more.
When an actor creates an artificial incentive to do something that is contrary to the interest of patient or contrary to the interest of the marketplace, these are the perverted outcomes you get. We see this in the United Kingdom, where they have death panels that decide the fate of people. They actually arrested the parents of a child who had a rare form of cancer that the British medical system, national healthcare system, refused to treat a couple of years ago. They heard about an experimental treatment that was novel in the Czech Republic. After the government refused to treat their child and was basically leaving their child to die, they flew to the Czech Republic and got the treatment. When they came back, they were arrested and put in prison while their child was put in a care facility. This is what happens when governments don't do what they're supposed to do. And that's what happened during the COVID scam a few years ago. Not the scam, it was a real virus. We're not denying that. We're talking about the political abuse of this. And this is an example of what happens when you create an artificial incentive. The artificial incentive here was if you push these things or if you declare a case, you get all this money. This is what happens when governments intrude into the private sector in an unnecessary way. And sadly, it sounds like this is an outcome, Rebecca, of what happened in this case.
Yes, yes. It's still happening. I just heard from a 14-year-old boy, their family, they have him in the hospital for 18 months in a psych ward. They made over $2 million on the private insurance. He hardly can function, and they don't even want to let him out.
Yeah, what's
In New
distressing
York.
about well, New York, it doesn't surprise me at all. What's distressing about this is that for years we hear people on the political left complain about the privatization of the prison system, how it's an incentive for these private corporations to be profitable, take on more prisoners. That's true, but these private corporations don't put the people in prison. The court system does that. So unless you take a direct link and show the court system is essentially putting people in and they're getting some kind of payback. But in this case, there was a very direct benefit. Hospitals and clinics where they house people were given payouts by the national and the state governments, in many cases, state governments, to house people by declaring cases to be COVID, which weren't COVID cases. You know, it's shocking to me, John, that people have gotten away with this. And I think people just want to forget the human rights abuses, the abuse of the political system, and the violation of our constitutional rights under the first 10 amendments that took place, including things, John, like, you know, shutting down churches, but keeping mosques open in New York City, shutting down synagogues, but keeping mosques open in New York City. And in Alabama, where they went to a Christian ceremony at a drive-in theater and they sat in cars, 2 cars apart with the windows rolled up. The pastor wasn't present. He was transmitting a live broadcast projected on the drive-in movie theater, and they threatened to arrest everybody in violation of the First Amendment. It's disturbing to me in so many ways, John. I spent 36 and a half years in uniform defending this country and our Constitution, our rights, only to see people who don't understand pandemics or epidemiology freak out and frighten the world and do this to many people. My mother is dead because of this scam. She didn't have COVID, but she had stage 4 metastatic lung cancer, and she was getting Keytruda through injections at the hospital. And then when the COVID scam started, nobody could come unless she had COVID. So they gave her different medications. She took it home. Within 90 days, she had cancer throughout her body, including in her skull. And I include my mother a victim of this political scam, along with Rebecca's daughter. It's heartbreaking, John.
Yeah, it's one of many. I know you guys don't know me. I don't know. Chris, do you know Paul Vallely, Tom McInerney?
McInerney sounds familiar. I don't know the first.
Yeah, Lieutenant General McInerney, 3-star, and Paul Vallely, 2-star. I presented to STARS. Are you familiar with STARS, the STARRS organization?
Yes, and I do know that McInerney. That one I know. Okay.
I figured you would. So yeah, I've been around a while, but I'm not like the most suppressed guy out there. There are many people like Rebecca who are fighting, not as many as there should be. She knows what happened. She has the records, but a lot of people just say, "Oh, COVID was really bad. My mother died from COVID. My sister died from COVID." No, the hospital killed them, more than likely. I figure about anywhere from 60 to 120,000 people really died from COVID. Much of it was we call hospital homicide. And you can't blame the individual doctor if he just followed the protocol. But somebody at the NIH funded a paper that got picked up by the CDC that became recommendations that were incentivized by CMS for the NCTAP program that was authorized or approved by FDA. So you have all 4 organizations under HHS.gov. It's a big RICO crime organization where there are people at the top making billions of dollars, billions on stock options and stock ownership and bonds and things like that. It's really sick. It's really sick how much money they're making, and they know, but it's very few people who know, Chris, very few people who know, and they created those protocols.
Well, John, not the same thing, but along the same lines in how we get to this mess, the creation of Medicaid and Medicare and the Social Security system, which has perverted our healthcare system in this country. They keep blaming it on other factors, but the reality here is that the government intrudes in. I mean, I went to see for my hip, I went to see an orthopedic surgeon. It was a 5-minute visit, $236 bill, and people don't understand why something like costs $236. Well, because the government healthcare, which is TRICARE, I pay insurance for that, only paid $81, and I paid my portion. So over $100 and some, over half the cost was written off by the provider because the government intrudes in the marketplace and driving this sort of problem. And it just goes on and on. there, when I was younger, well, and John, you're probably in that group with me there, and the other John is almost in that group with me, if not close.
I'm 62. I'm 62.
Okay, well, we're around this. I'm 59 again this year for a couple of years anyway. But yeah, so I was 29 again for 11 years till I hit 40, but so I'm 59 again this year. But when we were younger, there was something called the President's Council of Physical Fitness, and physical fitness was promoted in this country, and we prided on health and fitness. But now we parade morbidly obese people in commercials that celebrate unfitness. And we have trillions of dollars of lifestyle choice diseases, by and large, like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, that are wholly unnecessary because it becomes such an healthy society. But people make money off that, John. They make money. And the system doesn't promote good health. It promotes, people going to see medical providers, clogging the system up with things that shouldn't happen. And it's not the same story here, but it also shows the unwarranted intrusion of the government. Government's job should be small, and to ensure that it's a level playing field so nobody exploits anybody else and make sure it's safe. That's what they should be doing. But instead, they interject themselves and they pervert this whole thing, much like the incentives that were created to determine people to have COVID during the COVID scam. And then they got tons of money, which it sounds like is what happened to Rebecca's case, her daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. What people don't understand is this was all done on purpose to usher in a communistic society. They started with healthcare. It's been done with other things. I did a petition to the Supreme Court of the United States in my case because I sued the governor over I sued him over the mask mandate. He changed the mask mandate for the whole state of Massachusetts. Then I sued him over the vaccine mandate. It was dismissed. I took it to the First Circuit, then the Supreme Court. And in my determination, I did a management systems analysis of the U.S. court system. It's at the intersection of law and economics is really what the problem is. And I explained how the fall of the United States is happening. There's no question it's happening. The courts are now taking less than 0.1% of the cases. So Rebecca is going to have a really hard time because of not the substance of her case, but because of civil procedure. If you remember what happened in the election of 2020, how many cases were brought? Over 60 cases were brought for Trump, right? Either on his behalf or by him. And the biggest case was the Missouri and Texas against Pennsylvania. And that was kicked out on failure to state a claim and standing. And
standing, exactly, which was ludicrous because those attorneys generals had standing in Pennsylvania. Absolutely. I live in Pennsylvania because our stolen election in Pennsylvania defrauded voters in those states, and therefore they had standing.
Exactly. So what I proved is in 2007 and 2009, there was Ashcroft versus Iqbal and Bell Atlantic versus Twombly. They became the most cited cases in the history of the United States in only 16 years. And in 2020, just 2020 alone, there was a 62% increase more than normal in civil cases filed. That's 181,000 extra cases they didn't know what to do with. Now, the greatest they had in 25 years before that was 1997 at 5.7%. So you have a more than tenfold increase more than they expected. Did they hire 62% more people that year? No. Did they all work 14-hour days every day for a year? 62% more hours? No. What'd they do? They dismissed meritorious cases in violation of the First, 7th, 14th Amendments in Article 3, Section 2. They stomped on our rights, and they didn't let us in the courts, and they used procedure to do it. And that's a whole different story, but that's where Rebecca and her attorneys team, the team of attorneys, they're going to have a time going through that procedure, trying to get around all those hurdles when really it's averting justice. Justice is set aside for these procedural hurdles because the judges don't want to hear the case, and it's on purpose. It's a longer story than you want me to tell.
No, absolutely. Look, in my view, justice today isn't blind; it's oblivious to what's going on. I think that's an accurate statement. So, I mean, for instance, how in the world can the Supreme Court reach a decision claiming, as John Roberts falsely claimed, that the 14th Amendment extended all rights to the former slaves? It didn't. It didn't. It granted citizenship to those who are former slaves and their offspring and their progeny. And if it did grant all rights, why was it necessary to create the 15th Amendment to extend voting rights to black men? And oh, by the way, black women never got the voting right until all women got it in 1920. So to pervert the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution in such a way to comply with a political desire, which is what happens. And that's at the highest level. And of course, the Supreme Court can always take the case it wants, but you're talking about lower courts and what they decide to take. And I understand why. I mean, there's constant frivolous lawsuits. We just have another frivolous lawsuit filed against the Trump administration because they said that they want to tear apart the International Criminal Court. Well, first off, Senator Rubio is an excellent op-ed in Wall Street Journal, but we're not a party to the Rome Statute. Therefore, we have no standing there. So we don't have standing. What he meant by that is we're going to work with allies who are part of the court to destroy it from within. I mean, that's what he's trying to say. But there's already a lawsuit filed the next day by these two groups, one for Arabs of America or something like that, and some other group, saying that we're denying free speech to foreign countries who don't fall under the jurisdiction of the United States and are therefore not protected by the Constitution. And they're taking these actions. It's just, look, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But in Rebecca's case, is this a civil or criminal suit? Because if it's civil, I imagine there's a statute of limitations, most likely. And that's one way to deny justice. You punt this down the road until the end. And then the second thing is, if it's a criminal case, could there be statute of limitations? I mean, if it's murder, probably not. If it's culpable homicide, I don't think there's a statute of limitations.
Well, she has no private right of action, so it's not criminal, it's civil, and of course it's wrongful death. Rebecca, why don't you say say how you barely came in under the wire in time and got it filed, and you just to get it in there, and then you can amend it later and find a lawyer. Go ahead, tell that story.
Well, you know, when I searched for lawyers, I knew they killed her. So from the moment that happened, I started calling attorneys. I asked for the medical records. I started calling attorneys. No one wants to take the case. They give me every excuse in the book. They said she's special needs. There's no money involved. Then I wrote, before I filed my case, I submitted everything to Nassau District Attorney's Office with a criminal complaint showing everything. They injected my daughter with 53% fentanyl in her toxicology report. All her organs were destroyed. She walked into the hospital. The abuse what they did to her. In less than 10 days, she's going into organ failure, heart failure. They never told me anything. I'm still finding out more stuff in the medical records that is just so sickening. And because no one could take my case, I decided 3 days before, you know what, I'm just going to file it. I'm going to figure out how to file it. I filed it under the wire in less than an hour before deadline because I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, how to get the papers done, how to do this. But I got it in, and thank God I got it in. And I've been fighting, you know, they've been throwing things back and forth at me. I had no idea what to do. And thank God I have attorneys now. And that's why the case survived. So we in depositions, and the doctors, I just look at them, and all of them was like, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't recall. And they look at the attorney. And if my attorney asks a question that triggers them, the attorney just flips up and down and say, I don't like that question. I'm going to call the courts. And it was just a drama. We call him, the attorney for the defense, we call him George Costanza. He looks just like George Costanza from Seinfeld. And he acts just like George Costanza and just flipping up and down. I mean, it's like a fight every time we go in there. But I needed to look at those doctors. Pardon?
That's the playbook now, Rebecca.
Yeah. Oh, that's the playbook.
They threatened to call the judge on you in either a deposition or even in some kind of conference, especially a deposition. They'll threaten to call the judge and pull him in and say they're asking the wrong questions, that we're objecting to it, and they're asking things under protective orders that shouldn't be stated. They try to get protective orders. They try to get all these procedural tools, these procedural instruments that they put in place to prevent you from getting discovery, to prevent you from prosecuting your case. That's the status of our justice system now.
You know, I look at America. I always believed that America was a land of the free and we have justice. And what I'm witnessing, beside what happened to my daughter and many other cases, is that I'm just looking at these attorneys and these doctors and saying, my God, if this was publicized on national television, these people didn't give a shit about your trial. They don't care. They just did. There's no remorse. There is nothing in their face. They wouldn't even look at me. You know, it's just... This is shocking.
They used a psychological filter to leave behind in the hospitals all those who don't care. Now, that sounds like, you know, quite a blanket statement, but with the solicitation, they got about 60%. Then they used the coercion from the medical boards to take away people's board certifications if they don't go along with the treatment protocol or the vaccine. And then they got up to like 90%. And then they made examples out of doctors like Merrill Nass in Maine and Mark Charlesy in Canada, John Littell in Florida. And by making public examples, they got another 5%. And the other 5%, they were fired or they quit. And what you're left with in hospitals is the totally compliant. When you look at Mass General Brigham, which is a $20.6 billion operation in Massachusetts, they own 14 hospitals. It's the largest employer in the entire state. They're the #1 grant funding recipient from the NIH. They get a lot of money from BARDA, like $2.5 billion a year from that's Biological Advanced Research and Development, bioweapons. They're in bed with Harvard. They have purged themselves of 99.9% of people who wouldn't get the vaccine. Their staff is now not more than 99.9%. I'm involved in a lawsuit. We're down to 3 plaintiffs out of 267 against Mass General Brigham. It's a massive criminal organization. They ran the phase 3 clinical trials for Moderna. That was Lindsey Baden out of Mass General Brigham. I could go on. I'll stop now. This is about Rebecca and Danielle. So.
Yeah, no, look, Rebecca, you're right. It's shocking. You wonder, do we really live in America or do we live in George Orwell's 1984? I mean, let's just run through some of the things. We'll get back to specifically the topic of your daughter, but show the abuse of the government. On these unreasonable searches and seizures in violation of the Fourth Amendment, we see asset forfeiture for people who've committed no crimes and never get their money back. That violates the Constitution. We see people in prison for the right to keep and bear arms. Residents of Pennsylvania who mistakenly drive into New Jersey with a firearm when they get stuck on that stupid bridge where you can't get off of it, takes you to New Jersey, get pulled over by a cop, and then get sentenced to 5 years as a felon for having a firearm that's licensed across the river. And then we see the power of the IRS, which is in violation of the Constitution, to freeze all your assets and your money. We are preyed upon by our very government. And I'm heartbroken after spending 36 and a half years in uniform that I defended this Constitution for your freedom and my freedom, your daughter's life, your life, John's, for all of us. And just to see the abuse that the government's been doing, while I've been busy overseas fighting all these battles, I come back here and I see the homeland is falling apart. In your case, Rebecca, this had to be heartbreaking that they did this, that they gave you no access but you said fentanyl. They injected her with fentanyl.
Yeah. So when my daughter, she got sick from the age she had, and we took her into the hospital for a cough. So where I live in Long Island is a pretty nice neighborhood. It's pretty well off. JP Morgan is there, his church he built. So you have a lot of old money there, and it's a small hospital. I've been there before. Nothing ever happened to me. And my neighbor, when I called and I said, she has this cough, I don't know what to do. The fever is gone. He said, I'll call her in. So I'm thinking I'm getting special privileges because he knows the hospital when he was a younger doctor there. And as soon as I walk in, now the medical records show didn't even get a positive COVID test on Danielle. They said I went to Walgreens. They lied, fraudulently lied. They said I went to Walgreens. I got a test. They started on remdesivir and told me she had COVID pneumonia, and I have to admit her for 2 days. 2 days. So even the X-ray doesn't even show COVID pneumonia. Her chest was clear. Everything was clear, and that's it. They lied. They used fraud to deceive me.
They have the vital signs every hour on record. I made a timeline. Vital signs every hour, blood labs every day, imaging to the minute, all the food and water intake, all the doctors and nurses know she didn't have pneumonia. They're lying.
Look, I mean, I wasn't there, obviously, and Rebecca, I'm not asking you to make an allegation, but it sounds as if it was malicious, and let me just paint a picture. And I don't know if it's accurate, but it appears on the outside with the information that I've heard in front of me, that they had someone who didn't have the ability to stand up for themselves because of her situation, and they took advantage of a situation to cash in on money. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, John.
Yeah,
they did, and Rebecca knows they did, and we know Scott Shera, out in Wisconsin, they killed his daughter Grace. She was Down syndrome because they could, and they waited. And the father wasn't allowed in the hospital, but the sister was. The sister just wanted to take a shower. She left for a few hours, and that's when they got her. They got her sister, and they put her on a ventilator. And they're doing it on purpose to people who can't fight back. Somebody came up to me. I was at a book signing for my books. There were like a couple hundred people in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, at a library. And so I do the speech, and then people come up and talk. And one woman said, "Can I tell you a story?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, of course." She said, "Well, my sister was in the hospital for COVID, and the doctor and nurse didn't know I was listening. I was in the corner of the room. And the doctor said to the nurse, start her on the second course of remdesivir. And the nurse said, doctor, she has 4 children, 4 young children. That's what she said, 4 young children. And the doctor said, "Oh, never mind. Cancel the remdesivir." They know, Chris. They know.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Okay, Rebecca.
Yeah, the standard for remdesivir is 5 days. And you have to do the kidney analysis and the liver analysis before you give remdesivir. They didn't do any of that. They decided to give my daughter 10 days. You know, when I hear what John just said and Dr. James Miller said when he was in the Washington hospital, the doctor came in to see one of his patients and looked at her and said, "Oh, she looks like a nice girl. Don't give her remdesivir." So my daughter, what was my daughter? She was special needs, and everybody says, "Oh, COVID took out the special needs," and is COVID racist? It took out certain populations. I mean, it's just common sense questions. You start asking yourself. It's like they all knew what they were doing, and these hospitals need to close down. I mean, my daughter records. I have the toxicology. George Floyd had 11 NGs of fentanyl. Danielle had 53 NGs. This was done in the hospital. They destroyed every one of her organs. My daughter died a painful death. She went into shock. Then she went into cardiac arrest on 2 days after the event. And they have it. There is no cardiac follow-up. They just had a phone call. No cardiac
So
follow-up.
that's nearly 5 times the level of fentanyl. And of course, the chokehold wasn't the cause of death for George Floyd. We know that the coroner's official report says it was a fentanyl overdose that contributed to it. So, no, this is just. Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't know. I have a podcast out there. I have the death record for George Floyd. We caught him. There are codes associated with causes of death. Okay. X42 means death from psychodysliptics and hallucinogenics, which includes fentanyl. That's what you use for fentanyl, X42. It's put out by an automatic software program at the CDC. What happens is the death certifier writes words on the death record, which they did in Minnesota, and they sent it to the CDC, and it gets coded, and it goes back to the state. Now, what it says on his death record is anoxia from subdural neck restraint, okay? It has X42 instead of that. So what happened? It got coded. It went back to the state, and somebody changed the words, and they weren't smart enough to know that they have to change in a little corner of that form, X42.
And Derek Chauvin sits in prison for this.
And Derek Chauvin sits in prison. I called the doctor, and I said, I'm not going to say who it is. I was telling him, like, hey, you're involved in this. You got to go help out Derek Chauvin. I found this. It's wrong. I mean, it's clearly somebody altered the death record. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm confused. Then he said, I'm the expert witness for the plaintiff, don't you? And I said, no. You mean his family? And he said, yeah. Like, we shouldn't talk, should we? No, we shouldn't talk. It was pretty funny.
Oh my goodness.
But I went on. I don't know if you know Viva Fry. He's a
I know. Yeah, he's from Canada.
Yeah, so I went on his podcast, and we went through the death record line by line and talked about it. He's a lawyer, so
yeah, I know he got big because of the trucker strike. That's why his channel exploded around that time. I cover South Africa. Mine didn't explode quite the same way until the REFT program came along. But no, he does some good work up there. It's Rebecca. This doesn't help you, but there are people beyond John out there that know that this is rotten to the core. They try. I spent a few tens of thousands of dollars of my own retirement savings to run for the state legislature in Pennsylvania. And while I didn't publicly disclose my intent at the time, I have told people afterwards, and I did tell a few close people why I was running for office. I'm running for office to serve the people of Pennsylvania, but I wanted to introduce legislation to retroactively revoke the qualified immunity that Governor Wolf had here in Pennsylvania. I spent much of my military career doing many things holistic as intelligence analyst, and I looked at epidemiology because it affects readiness, it affects communities. And so I'm very familiar with hantavirus, Ebola, with AIDS, with all these, or HIV, with all these different things. And when this came along and they reacted the way they did, I'm like, what the hell are these people doing? This is, maybe they should watch the movie Outbreak, that might help them figure this out. The people in Outbreak were smarter than this, it was Dustin Hoffman, but it really irritated me. And I wanted to introduce it because Phil Murphy in New Jersey, Governor Grope-a-Lot in New York, Cuomo, and Wolf colluded. I'm convinced, I have no evidence of it. They must have met or talked on the phone together to send our grandparents, our aunts or uncles, the septuagenarians, the octogenarians, and nultogenarians into nursing homes where people with compromised immune systems are. They sent these COVID patients there to kill all the elderly. I mean, what other reason is, what kind of moron sends people who have what they claim is the most infectious disease since the Spanish influenza, which isn't from Spain, actually came from America, but the Spanish influenza, they send them into nursing homes where people have, all kinds of compromised lupus and cancer and diabetes and hypertension, and they're frail and their telomeres are falling apart in their body and they can't recover. And we're going to send all the COVID patients there. We'd have been better just to put them in high school gymnasiums. So what I'm saying, Rebecca, is that there are people out there that are trying to stand up, and that doesn't help your situation. But I just want you to know that people care and they realize the horrors that are happening. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, thank you very much, Chris. I am trying. My goal is not only to expose what they did to Danielle, but everybody else, because they were so comfortable in writing the medical records. I don't even have to prove my case. It's in the medical records, right, John? I mean, they were callous. They were so custom, just write it down, They don't call the mom, nothing. They violated every ICU violation, New York State violation. But I'll tell you one thing, Northwell Health goes way back with Cuomo and Cuomo father. And Northwell Health petitioned together with Cuomo, Pence, to get all the CDC to test at Northwell Health Laboratory. And before that, they were sending it out to the CDC, and they were coming back negative. When Northwell Health got permission, everybody started to become positive. And that should be investigated, because that's billions. Now, Northwell Health bought up all the hospitals in New York. They are the largest medical, facility in New York. Well, no one's investigating that?
Yeah, no, it's a very fair question. I went to the Defeat the Mandates rally with RFK and Dr. Malone and High Res and Jimmy Levy singing up there, which was just amazing. Unfortunately, 25,000 people came, but it was, like 12 degrees Fahrenheit. So I understand why a lot of people did want to come to DC that day, but it was nonetheless a powerful event. Listening to these physicians who spoke up there, including the doctor in Texas, I can't recall her name, talk about how they're being decertified by boards because they refuse to go along with this narrative. It's really shocking, John, what they did to so many physicians. You kind of mentioned about they got 90% to go along, then they harassed 5% and converted them, and only 5% stood up for what's right, moral, and just. And, when this thing started to ease a bit and the nonsense, by the way, I have a beard because of COVID, if you're wondering. I said I would shave it off when they start acting like adults, and they're still not acting like adults. And your case proves that they're trying to cover this up. But it's really frustrating to see how they manipulated the medical community. And these people take a Hippocratic oath, and it seems like some of them more concerned about paying off their student loan debt and having their big mansions than they were about taking care of the patients, John.
Yeah, I have a chapter in my book, EBM and Dr. Backer. I explain evidence-based medicine, where it came from. It's out of Canada, the Canadian Healthcare Act, mid-1960s. I'll go real fast with this. What goes with a law? Money, right? So they have a lot of funding. So they funded McMaster University. They came up with, we're going to enhance the scientific method. And they came up with EBM by 1981. They coined the term, wrote a lot of papers. To make it short, by 1992, every medical school in North America was teaching evidence-based medicine. Why is that bad? Because they look at the literature first as the primary evidence. What I mean is they will look at a paper that the CDC, what does the guidance say? The central authority. When you have a central authority, you get losses at the margins of normalcy. If you walk in something not normal, you're going to get misdiagnosed and maybe killed. And so they look to the central authority. They're not paying attention to the patient in front of them. The patient in front of them, you might be of Portuguese descent. You can't eat certain kinds of fish. The doctor knows all the microbes that are in your local water. He knows the minerals in your water. He knows your food supply, the pork down the street, whatever you're eating. And here's this research paper from some population in India with different genetics, different food supply, different microbes, different minerals in the water. And they have to go by the paper, because if they don't go by the paper, they run the risk of being sued for malpractice or have their license taken away if something happens. Because if they want to do what they want to do, which is the right thing to decrease your chances of dying, they can't do that. They have to increase your chances of dying so they won't get sued, so they won't lose their license. They have to adhere to the central authority. And I won't go through an economic systems analysis as to why that's bad, but it's really bad. And we're talking like tens to hundreds of thousands of people dying more every year now because of that.
Well, and one thing that's never happened here, when the Unaffordable Care Act was forced upon us, Remember Nancy Pelosi talking about, just vote for it. You can read it afterwards.
Yeah.
When that abomination further perverted the insurance market, which was already distorted, when that happened, we saw so many negative outcomes from that situation. Sorry, I got lost in my thought there. I had a specific point I was trying to make, but it's very frustrating with what's happened here and the lack of accountability. It's not just malicious. There's also a question of competence here too, and I have faith in the medical system. And I began to question the medical system. I'm not some lunatic running around. The sky is falling, and there's aliens in Area 51. They're in Area 52 actually. But anyway, no. So, in 2006, when I was preparing to deploy to Liberia, I went to the clinic at Fort Meade, Maryland, and I went to get my immunizations up to date. And the young technicians there were looking at this, and they had to call this old Jewish doctor over because they're all perplexed. Like, what's this for? I'm like, what do you mean, what's that for? That's for hepatitis. I've never heard of that. I had a gamma globin shot, those huge horse needles, and they're supposed to inject in your butt, but I took it in the arm all the time, which is pretty brave. But the medical technicians didn't even know what that was. That was the gold standard for immunizations against hepatitis A for years until they came along with a proper vaccination for it. And this is only that was for the Gulf War. I got that in 1990, and I got it in 91. So we're only talking 15 years later, and the medical community didn't even know what the heck it was. And only this one old Jewish doctor was there, came over and said, oh, because he'd been in Israel and they still were giving that sort of thing. It begins to put questions in your mind. And on top of that, we have a situation in this country because of ridiculous flooding of our borders of people who are not immunized coming to this country, plus this mild resistance to immunizations, especially for MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, where we have now pockets of measles outbreaks in a country where it was declared extinct just 25 years ago. And we have lots of doctors that are running across things like whooping cough that we haven't seen in 30 or 40 years, and they have no idea what it is. I know someone who had whooping cough and was not diagnosed for several years because every physician had no idea what the problem was that she had. And she suffered for like 6 years from this. Surprised she survived. So I think it's not only a question of malfeasance and what they're doing here in this case, it's also a question, maybe there's a competence issue here that's going on, John.
Yeah. I mean, if we talk another time or off camera, we probably should debate a few points you said. The measles, it's no problem. I mean, why people are afraid of measles and the super rare problems that did occur back then, I don't get it. I mean, everybody knows that Brady Bunch episode where, hey, if you're going to get something, get the measles. You get out of school. Everybody got the measles. Nobody had a problem. What's the other one you mentioned? Pertussis, whooping cough.
Oh, I didn't say. I said whooping cough. Yeah, that's one I mentioned.
Yeah, it's pertussis. I could break your heart. I could show you 6 records right now where the babies died within 2 days of vaccination. They said the flu killed the baby. There's one.
John, I'm not arguing the vaccine. I think that was the point. No, I'm not arguing the efficacy or what take it. But what I'm saying is this person had whooping cough and they couldn't diagnose it for several years because it was something they hadn't seen in so long.
The doctors are just following scripts now.
Yeah. I guess that's where I was trying to go with this, John. That's the point I was trying to make.
They're following scripts. They're being programmed. They can memorize and regurgitate, but they don't synthesize that knowledge into intelligence. They're not synthesizing it into, I'm going to think about this and figure out what's good for you as an individual. No, I'm going to treat the way the computer, I call it the laptop god on the wheelie table. You go to the doctor now, there's a little laptop on a wheelie table and they type into it. Okay. And they, what else do you have? Okay. Another symptom? Okay. And then they say, well, it says here you need drugs. You need a statin. You need this. You need that. That's their solution for everything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and another thing. So, and I'm not with Rick. I want to get back to your story. This isn't about me, but just a quick example here. So, the cartilage in my hip is pretty much gone. I've seen it. I've seen the images of it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've had this problem for 40 years, but it only manifested recently because of active and eventually wore down. And instead of addressing it, the Army ignored it, and they would give me ibuprofen, to reduce inflammation. Maybe. And I wound up with chronic arthritis around the hip there and wearing on the joint. And after I retired, I went to them and I said, I'm in pain. Is there something we could do here? And instead of actually going through a process to look at me seriously, the doctor with his little cart there with his laptop on it, he said, well, we'll give you a cortisone injection. That's probably, and so I got a cortisone injection, in the bursa sac, and the bursa sac wasn't the problem. And of course, it kind of, it doesn't numb things, but it basically, so the pain, you don't notice it for a while. And so I probably did more damage to it. And now, anyway, so it's just, the point is they're not diagnosing, they're just following a script, like you said.
Yeah.
Rebecca, what do you hope to achieve from this? I think what you hope to achieve is awareness. And do you hope that somebody be held accountable? I mean, if I were in your shoes, I would want somebody held accountable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would be happy to bring back hanging on the tongue square, just hang them all. We don't need this. I'm sorry to be so blunt. What they did to my daughter, they don't deserve. I mean, I don't think the worst criminal in America got the treatment my daughter got. She didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I agree with you.
41
That's
days
terrible.
of torture, We have to do something. We have to stop this. Like John says, it's continuous. And the PrEP Act is there until 2029. So who knows what they're going to pull tomorrow? We all need to be speaking up and looking at this. Doctors don't even know how to use a manual blood pressure machine. They all need digital. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. It's like sailors that don't know how to use a sextant. What happens when the GPS doesn't work? It's in the Gulf War, the terrain elevation changed about 2 centimeters over the course of about 20 kilometers. Yet I could find my way with 3% illumination at night and not get lost. Today, I take soldiers out, they get lost in 5 minutes. They'll never find their way. And if the satellites are jammed, it's, if the generators run out of fuel, it's the same sort of thing. If people need to have the ability to, it's like we can't even fix our own cars anymore. They're just that complicated. And I guess that's kind of what it is with some of these doctors, if not the majority of them. Well, I hope that you get some justice in this. I really do. And you're very welcome. I'm so sorry to hear the story. And I really feel badly for the suffering that your daughter went through. I mean, I'm not comparing, but I know my mother suffered horribly towards the end there because of what happened. And it was unnecessary. That Keytruda drug that she was taking actually arrested the growth. She had stage 4 metastatic lung cancer. They gave her 4 months to live. She lived for 18 months. The cancer did not advance. It was whatever that drug does, it was holding it back. And she was living a normal life. Then COVID came, boom, you can't come in the hospital, take these pills at home. And it just went crazy. The world lost its mind, and very few of us were standing up at the time. And I was, John, another reason why I didn't grow like Viva Fries, I was canceled by YouTube and by others for simply stating facts. And actually, the video that got me in trouble is one where I showed Dr. Fauci claiming that you can't wear masks because they don't work, which is a lie. They work for their intended purpose. And then 6 months later, say, if you don't wear a mask, you're killing grandma. I put the two videos together and I said, who do we believe? Anyway, so I lost my YouTube channel over something as simple as that. That's how demented these people were to hide the truth about what's going on. And I think that the world needs to know about your daughter. Rebecca, what was your daughter's name?
Danielle Alvarez. She was 28 years old. She was a loving, special needs little girl. Everybody in Locust Valley and Glen Cove knew her. She was like the little mayor. And we need help. We need the story to be publicized as much as possible. Free Now Foundation is our fiscal sponsor. They're trying to raise money for the case. It's Rebecca Charles Jackson against Northwell Health, and it's still ongoing. So please share the story. I'm on Substack. I write. It's at Rebecca Charles on Substack too.
All right, we'll share that. I'll share that with my audience, over 130,000 as well. And I know a lot of them were unhappy about this. John, how much time we got left? I know we're getting close.
Oh, we're down to about 45 seconds.
All right, John, would you like to wrap up with anything that we could tell people about here before we close it out for the hour?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll just go with my Substack and book. So the book is The Real CDC. So it's found at therealcdc.com, and the Substack is therealcdc.substack.com. It's really that simple.
All right. Well, Rebecca, John, thank you both for coming on. I would have mispronounced your name too, because to me, I would have said it in French, Baudouin. So that's how I would have said it, which would have been wrong.
Baudouin.
There you go. Baudouin. Okay. Parle français aussi. Okay. All right. Well, excellent. Thank you both for being guests tonight.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Rebecca. John, that's going to wrap it up for this hour, is it not? And we'll be back in the next hour. And I guess that we're not going to have Todd. It's just going to be you and I.
It is. You're stuck with me, man. No Todd for you.
Dang it. It always happens.
It does. Thank you guys for being on with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a top of the hour break and listen to some news.
Nice to meet you.
All the other good stuff, and we'll be right back with you once.
Broadcasting from 200 Main Street in the beautiful and historic Masonic Building. This is WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Streaming live at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero. President Trump says Iran wants to negotiate following recent U.S. military pressure, but says the administration has not decided whether to pursue a settlement or continue the military action.
They want to settle so badly. They don't like what we're doing, and they do want to settle. We'll find out whether or not we settle with them or we just finish it off.
Trump made those remarks during a defense summit in Pennsylvania today. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche faced Senate confirmation questions today over the Jeffrey Epstein files, an anti-weaponization fund, and President Trump's IRS settlement.
I agree completely with Senator Schumer. Blanche is first and foremost this president's personal attorney, and this president has clearly sent the message out. He does not want full disclosure.
Illinois Senator Dick Durbin criticized Blanche, who said he had previously served as Trump's lawyer. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at its lowest level since 1983, holding about 316.5 million barrels after nearly 100 million barrels were withdrawn since the Iran war began in February. The emergency stockpile was created back in 1975 to protect against energy shortages. If you were a 23andMe customer, you may be wondering whether you're getting a check from the company's massive data breach settlement.
Nearly 7 million 23andMe customers were affected when hackers gained access to personal and genetic information in a 2023 data breach. Now a judge has approved a $46.75 million settlement. Most eligible customers who filed claims could receive around $100, while those with documented losses may qualify for larger payments up to $10,000. The claims deadline has already passed, but payments are still being processed. I'm Monica Nelson.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average added 150 points, the S&P 500 gained 28 points, and the Nasdaq rose 162 points. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to TruckersUnitedForFreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now tuning in, you're listening to Common Sense Conserves right here at WSMN, 1590 on your AM dial, 95.3 on your FM dial. Todd McKinley did not get to join us for a brief second this evening because he has interesting event going on there in Kingston, Tennessee, a political event. So very important for him to attend. Chris, that was a pretty good interview that we had there, I thought. A lot of valuable information.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to hear what happened to her daughter. It almost sounds like, let me just do a fictional scenario, which probably isn't too far from the truth. We got another one here. This one's got learning disabilities. She can't say anything. Let's fill her full of drugs and tell her family that she's near death, put her on a ventilator, and get that big check from the government. That's what it sounds like happened.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything new in that. She's definitely not alone when it comes to that sort of thing. My wife has a term for that. It's warehouse patients. People in nursing homes and things like that, they're not properly or adequately cared for. They're there for a paycheck. They don't care about the patients. They don't have it's not like the old days. I don't think they don't have I'm not saying doctors are bad, and I'm not saying nurses are bad. There's a lot of great doctors and a lot of great nurses, but the way some of these institutions are run anymore, administratively, I think that it's not inappropriate to say that some people are basically considered warehouse patients.
Well, I mean, that's how they treat them. They treat them like they're a side of beef.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess a paycheck's a paycheck, but I think we've lost integrity in our society anymore. Do you feel like people have kind of lost their sense of professionalism in a lot of businesses and lost their sense of dignity, the way we conduct business with each other? I mean, people aren't responding to each other's emails anymore, or their text messages or phone calls, and we're kind of like blowing each other off. I don't know if it's just too much going on, we're too distracted, or what's going on, but I mean, even businesses now, they're just kind of like rude, more or less. They have no sense of professionalism.
Well, it's almost
why they're out of business.
It's almost as if they're all Valley girls. What have,
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, look, I've noted this many times, the breakdown in civic norms in the society. It began some time ago, but it clearly manifested during the Bush administration, with people losing their minds and feeling increasingly confident to attack others who supported defending this nation. But the breach came with hope and change. What a big scam that was in 2008, 2009. That clown came in office and began dismantling America and dividing it racially. And ever since then, civic involvement has dropped off a cliff. People participating and volunteering, it's impossible. I mean, for the VFW, we've got 340 members, and I'm lucky to get 10 people, all of whom average age is 75 years of age, showing up for meetings. There's something wrong with that, and we're not alone. It's all kinds of organizations. Never mind the conduct of people, publicly, especially on social media. So many people are so toxic and nasty. I mean, I've got this person who is about to be hit with a serious lawsuit, not by me, by other people, who is defamed me repeatedly, had the audacity to mock my military service. This person never contributed anything in their life. And it's a 67-year-old person. They act like a 3-year-old. It's unbelievable, the level of stupidity that we deal with in society and the lack of decorum and how people behave. And also, it's something that's odd for me, John, having served in uniform, and Todd would relate to this if he were here. And I don't understand civil society. The pathological liars out there. I've never met so many people who lied to my face and with no shame, no regret. I mean, it's just a way for them to get what they want, and they'll just tell the biggest yarn possible. And I'm standing there like, you honestly expect me to believe this? I mean, I have the evidence that everything you just told me is, I don't say this, but it's in my head. Everything you just told me, I have the evidence to prove the contrary. I have concrete evidence. You're going to sit here and lie to me as if I'm a 12-year-old and I'm going to fall for it. To me, there is a serious breach in society, and it's so disturbing. And it's insane. And people take us all for fools. It's comical. I mean, again, John Roberts, back to that case, he took America for fools. If you read the notes, if you read the writings of the people who are the drafters of the 14th Amendment, it's pretty clear what their intent was. It wasn't to give birthright citizenship. It was to give citizenship to former slaves, because it didn't grant birthright citizenship. And this is perhaps the biggest fallacy in John Roberts' argument. It didn't grant the rights to people. It didn't grant birthright citizenship, because if it did, then every Native American in the country would have been a citizen. But many Native Americans didn't become citizens under the law until the 20th century. So what a scam. They were here before we were here, and they weren't even citizens. Yet John Roberts claims that the 14th Amendment gave all rights to all illegals. He's a clown. And the fact that people believe this and they scream it from the rooftops because it satisfies their political need is beyond comprehension. Look, I mean, there's things that are decided that I disagree with. Trump came out with this nonsense a few days ago about he's going to charge 20% tariff for the Strait Hormuz. We have no right to that. That's an international waterway. It's an international waterway. And he just argued against Iran doing it. And then he says, we're going to do it. I don't know if he's trolling people up, but he's rescinded that now. But, just because I like Trump presidency and his conservative stance, I'm not going to support something that's morally bankrupt. We have no legal basis for it. And Marco Rubio, while I think he's the shining star and the likely next presidential candidate for the Republican Party, this nonsense about dismantling ICC, we don't have any standing. We're not in the ICC. It's just a waste of time and energy. What kills me is that so many people will only root for their team. They don't root for the truth. And I guess that's what I'm getting at, John. People don't do what's right, moral, and just. And that's been my guiding star. We're doing it's right, moral, and just every time. And when people don't do that, I'm gobsmacked at just how nasty and how underhanded, how duplicative, and how dishonest so many people in civil society are. It shocks me to the core after spending 40 years in uniform, almost my entire adult life.
Yeah, you talk about tribal mentality, more or less, especially when it comes to politics. You got people out there being foot soldiers for a party that they made no agreements on as far as an agenda goes. You and I weren't invited to the planning party, were we? And so you and I will look at things critically and make our own personal assessments on things. However, a lot of people get sucked into the partisanship agenda, especially on the left. And that's why they're out there pumping their fist. I got a right to this and I got a right to that. Just because your party told you have a right, don't mean you have a right. But you believe that, and you become a foot soldier in their little game without actually thinking about it, within no critical thought process at all. You're out there chanting and carrying on. And some people are creating acts of violence against other people because they believe differently, or they see things differently, or they actually have knowledge of something differently and say so, and all of a sudden they're on somebody's target. Somebody's making a pizza delivery that they never called for.
Yeah, well, don't say that. I'm hungry. I could use a pizza right now.
I don't know if you get the reference or not, but
I got it. You're talking about the Pentagon and the Pizzagate and all this stuff, right?
No, I'm talking about swatting.
Okay, got
when somebody's gonna swat you, they call a pizza order for you, and you get delivery. I didn't order a pizza. That's a sign you're getting swatted.
I got it. Look, I mean, when I think of swatting, I always think of Tim Pool trying to increase his viewership. That's what it comes to me every time. So.
Oh no, it has been a thing. There's a lot of people.
I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
yeah, he has actually been genuinely swatted by people with stupid stuff. Yep. No, it's very disheartening. The lack of civic participation. We're closing volunteer fire departments and consolidating. Thereby making response times longer, costing people lives, and taking a key component of civil society away where people contributed in a significant way because people aren't volunteering to be firefighters anymore. And in many places, you have to rely on volunteer fire departments. You don't have the resource for municipal fire department. It's just it's crazy. Yeah, it's so disheartening. What did they do to my country while I was overseas defending our freedoms? It's just crazy.
Last week I brought up the militia, right? And the reason why I've been looking at that is because I'm thinking to myself, you've got the Second Amendment. Everybody talks about the right to keep and bear arms, but do people really take into consideration the whole of the Second Amendment? The first part of it is a well-regulated militia being these
necessary.
Yeah, necessary. Anyway, the point is every able-bodied man was supposed to be part of a volunteer militia in every state, and that was for the defense of the state, for the defense of the country. And They took that away in 1903. I understand they replaced it with the National Guard. They claimed that the militia wasn't strong enough or well trained enough, but they weren't meant to be used for foreign conflicts. Militia was meant to be used here at stateside within their own homes, and they used to police. And like I say, it was voluntary. So you just brought up volunteer fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteer. They used to have auxiliary police, auxiliary deputies.
Oh, many states still have. New Hampshire has auxiliary police. We know that
Sure.
because our friend who ran for the Senate there, Don Bolduc, is an auxiliary cop.
Oh, is he auxiliary? I did not
Yeah.
realize that.
Or reserve. It's the same difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, volunteer officers. So you're going to assist officers in their duties or whatever. It might be something like directing traffic during a parade.
But we have
but
that
you
here.
up
We
pick
have
up
that
the
here in
slack.
Pennsylvania too. When we do a
Yeah.
Memorial Day parade, 80% of the law enforcement out there are people from the police auxiliary.
But the question is, how many people are willing to volunteer?
Well, yeah, and when I look at them, they're all like 65 to 80.
Well, and so I see all these people complaining, well, taxation is stuff. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. Taxation is stuff. We're all in agreement there. But the problem is you still got to pay for your fire department. You still got to pay for your police department. You do need these things. They are essential to your communities. So how do you afford the cost? Are you going to volunteer? What are you going to give up some time? What are you going to do to help reduce the tax burden?
Yeah, no, I hear you. There's a comment in the chat on my channel that is obviously someone that doesn't know anything about me and trying to claim that I'm making some sort of altruistic claim that people have to participate. No, I'm not. And I'm not saying it takes a village. You don't know who I am. You obviously are not familiar with my background. I have always said that this nonsense of socialism doesn't work because humans are driven by reward incentives. They respond to rewards. There's a reason why people invest in Starlink. They all want to get rich because they see an opportunity there. They don't invest in something that's failing unless they're stupid or unless they're leftist. No, reward. Look, I mean, I know all about Pavlov's dog and I watch enough people all over the world to see that humans are driven by incentives, whether it's a profit or it's something. Even, Mother Teresa was driven by something, and it was her, the fulfillment she got from helping other people. And when I talk about volunteering, there is something to that. There are things that come with it. Prestige comes with it. A role in your community, being respected in your community. These are rewards people get from volunteering and accomplishing things. That's the bottom line here. And almost nobody does anything completely out of altruistic reasons, but that doesn't mean we have to pay everybody an insane amount of money to participate in society. People can participate to do things, to accomplish things very easily.
Oh, you talking about liquid laser?
Yeah.
He says, yeah, I meant feel good factor. Yeah. I think he's kind of agreeing with
Well,
you.
maybe I misinterpreted his comment then because it looked like he was saying that, it was silly for the point I was making. The point I was making is that it's missing in society now. Whatever drives it, whatever reward is, it's missing. And it's been missing for years. And I've been talking about this for several years. It gets me frustrating because when I had a small audience, when I retired, I would talk about things like this and only a handful of people would hear it because they didn't have the reach. And now, years later, when I talk about this, there's more people talking about it. And it's other issues. Like I wrote an article about land distribution and land ownership in South Africa in 2018. And just this past week, a civil rights group in South Africa basically wrote the same article. They didn't plagiarize from me, but they looked at the same data, reached the same conclusions, but because they have 500,000 followers, they pay to be members of their organization, suddenly it's all over the news. Whereas I wrote it 8 years ago and it was perfectly correct and accurate and brought the issue up when it was timely, but just didn't have the reach. And that's what's frustrating. That's like when people discover the art or the music or the writings of someone who's long dead that was obscured in their lifetime. Like, oh, this guy he was switched on 60 years ago. Unfortunately, he didn't make any money off his work.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. While you're doing, I wanted to get an image up there.
I thought you were crushed because England lost. Congratulations, Argentina, who came back in dramatic fashion to win 2-1 and break the hearts of English soccer fans who now have waited 60 years to get to another World Cup final, and they failed in their effort in the semifinal this afternoon.
Well, I do feel for those folks over there in England, but I think they got bigger fish to fry. They need to get back in their streets and take back their government and run some of these undesirables out of their country that are making a mess of things and taking over.
You mean like the politicians?
That would be a good start, I think. But I think, especially based on the conversation we had there in the first hour, we need to take some consideration into that ourselves over here in the United States. One thing about Americans, when we do start seeing things develop, we will stand up. Just hopefully it's not too late. You got to get ahead of it. Like I've talked about that ELD thing for a number of years with you. And one of the issues about the electronic logging device for us truck drivers is we got behind the 8 ball. We didn't get ahead of it. We got behind it. We should have been on it in 2012, not 2017. We waited too long. And so when you see these things happening, like what Rebecca and John were
Agreed.
talking
That
about,
became entrenched. Sorry, my mic was off. I said, when you said that, I said agreed. I agreed 100%. 2012 should have been engaged. It became entrenched, and once it's entrenched, it's harder to stop.
yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So, when spicy cough season came along, we should have been more engaged right away. We should not have been playing any games. We should have been. And what are they going to do? They can't prosecute everybody that rebels. And that's how the civil rights movement got along, right? Rosie Parks said, "You know what? I'm getting tired of the view from the back of the bus. I've had enough. I'm changing seats. I'm done with it." And she rebelled against basically what was a social standard at the time that she obviously most people today would disagree with. But she did it. And other people saw that and felt encouraged off it and said, "You know what? I'm standing with her." And as they did, people took notice. Things started to change. You have to be willing to stand up. You can't be, as my wife brought up one time, milk toast. Remember that old term? If you're going to be milk toast about it, you're going to have to take what you get, and you deserve what you get.
Yeah, no, I've actually, they've got a Rosa Parks Museum and the Montgomery bus boycotts in Montgomery. Of course, I've been there. It's interesting thing to see. Nice place to visit. Not a lot of people go there, at least when I was there. So it was interesting to see. Yeah, the people have to take a stand. And you're right. When it's one person, it's hard. But when it's a crowd, I mean, Gandhi was successful because millions backed him and hundreds of thousands marched with him. And he was successful because that frightened the authorities, that peaceful protest. But it's crazy what's going on in the world, and people not engaged, people wholly uninformed about their own system. When I read Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America, and he talks about American institutions and how the strengths of America is, he would go to remote, countryside in Virginia or Pennsylvania and talk to farmers whose closest neighbor was miles away, and they could have conversations about Plato and Socrates, and the farmers knew what they were talking about. They were well informed. They had informed opinions. Well, I tell you what, I go on a college campus today and talk to a bunch of juniors, not freshmen, juniors, and mention those names, and they'll probably think it's a new application for your mobile phone, Plato and Socrates.
Yeah. Yeah, people. It's kind of funny what people used to know in the old days. It's kind of when you go back to the James gang, right? Frank and Jesse James. People supported them. They weren't just folklore. It was fanfare. These guys are great. I love these guys. Why? Because they didn't trust banks. They didn't trust what they seen, what was going on. They knew that there was nefarious things happen in their days. They didn't need the internet. They didn't need the speed of the internet. They didn't need just papers. They spoke, they talked, they looked at things logically, they reasoned things out. They looked at it critically, and they were aware. And as a result, they supported Jesse and Frank James, not because they were doing the right thing, but because they were robbing trains. They were robbing banks. They were robbing the very people they didn't trust.
Yeah, well, Robin Hood figures do tend to get a lot of attention, and they get support from folks. So lots going on politically today. The confirmation hearings for the Director of National Intelligence, Jay Clayton. We've also got Todd Blanche's hearings for Attorney General. They're attacking him left and right. As I said, Argentina came back in dramatic fashion late in the game to tie and then defeat England and break their hearts after 60 years. We've got the expansion of military operations in Iran by the Trump administration. Oh, by the way, can I sue Canada for the toxic air that I'm breathing from the wildfires that are blowing on here? I mean, they tried to sue us over, acid rain that we dropped all over Ontario and killed all their maple trees 40 years ago. So can I sue them for this second round of air pollution that's poisoning, causing deaths here in America? It's crazy. Have you seen the toxic clouds?
Yeah, no, somebody commented on that Facebook. Somebody took a picture of the sun behind the clouds and said, here it is a short while later and everything's an orange haze. So they put side by side on social media about that. And somebody made a comment about, well, you can thank Canada for the wildfires that they keep delivering to the United States these last several years. I don't know what's going on with Canada, but I'm pretty certain their laws would probably prevent you personally from suing them for negligence. But
no, I'm being facetious.
I know, but maybe another sovereign nation could.
But you could take the International Tribunal, International Criminal Court, but kind of like they took South Africa, took Israel over Gaza. But if you look at where these fires are at, they're in basically wetlands. How in the heck are they getting wildfires in wetlands? I mean, how many
Methane
thunderstorms
gases,
are out
it's
there?
those CO2 causing methane gases, Chris. It's got to be. Darn it. Somebody threw out a cigarette and lit it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that happening. That is the reality here. But I mean, once again, we're in the same situation we were in 3 years ago with these horrific fires producing toxic smoke that's blowing over hundreds of thousands of square miles. And it's really, I mean, I'm right on the edge of it. I think you guys are going to hit up there too. I have to look at the map, but here it's hazardous. It's not hazardous, but it's dangerous. And just a few miles north of me, it's hazardous. I can just go north and it's bad. It's really bad. Of course, the first thing they'll say, John, climate change.
Yeah. Believe it, that's why I mentioned CO2 gases, right? It's methane, those dangerous CO2 gases. Now they're burning up the joint, they're polluting the air. We got to stop this dangerous wildfires. Well, do it, clean it up. It's like California. They won't let anybody pick up the tinder that's laying on the ground from dead trees and branches and stuff. They say it's all natural and nature should take its course. And it's like, I guess they used to clean that stuff up to prevent wildfires and stuff. One lightning strike, and all of a sudden the whole woods are on fire.
Well, I mean, this human intervention, we do things without understanding the holistic issue here. So, for instance, in the 1960s, USAID financed programs to dig boreholes in the Sahel, the semi-desert band that's a narrow band. It's not quite desert and it's not quite tropical, between tropical West Africa all the way across to East Africa and the Sahara Desert. And so they were trying to improve the lives of nomadic herders who were in desperate poverty without realizing that this was an ecosystem that worked. What I mean by that is that these farmers were sheep herders and goat herders, and sheep especially nibble the grass to the soil, and they do clear damage to it. And grass, if it's not given relief, can't recover and it gets trampled down, and erosion happens, and it all dies off, and you get more desertification. So they figured they dig these boreholes, and these poor farmers would be able to be sedentary without realizing the impact of the goats and sheep hanging around the water hole. And then all the grass was nibbled down. It turned to sand and soil. They went out concentric bands further and further until the wells were dry and all the grass and the vegetation was denuded and desertification spread. So good intentions, bad outcomes. This is one example of what they do. We think that we know the answer to these things, and we don't know the answer to it. And we make things worse by human action. It happens all the time and again, when humans are arrogant enough to think, look at the Soviets, we need to produce cotton in the desert. So they divert the rivers that flow into the Aral Sea. And not only did they destroy the Aral Sea, but they released so much toxic waste that was buried in the sands under the water that is sunk there from industrial plants that polluted for decades under the Soviet Union, that they've created all kinds of toxic fumes and diseases and storms that have caused all kinds of bronchial problems. And they have caused cancers out the wazoo because all these things. In fact, one of the things is that their biological weapons testing site was on an island there, and they buried the waste in barrels on the island. The island has been exposed, and those barrels have rotted away, and the stuff is in the air now. The intervention of humans at times can be so arrogant and so destructive. It's shocking to see how much hubris we have as a species.
Well, what you're describing is it was unintentional. Nobody gave it any thought, but it's how our Dust Bowl happened. Is farming in the prairies and taking out the grass and stuff and releasing the soils, and the winds were picking it up and carrying it up. And next thing you know, Chicago's just buried in dirt.
Well, and in a few more decades, we'll have an even worse situation because the largest aquifer in North America is being drained at an alarming rate and has been for 50 years. The Ogallala Aquifer, which has trillions and trillions and trillions of gallons of underground water that's been put there for hundreds of millions of years accumulating, and it's being drained at a rate that can't be filled, and it will be drained, and we'll see sinkholes, and we'll see the desertification of America's Midwest in a few decades if we don't change our practices. And nobody's addressing that. Look at the Colorado River. It's not even the Colorado Stream when it hits Baja California. The ecological damage from that is unbelievable. The Colorado River is a disaster now. 11 states rely on it, and 100 million people. It's crazy.
What is the Hanford site?
Hanford, that's a nuclear waste site, is it not?
I don't know. Somebody's Holden says you should mention the Hanford site.
Oh, Hanford. If he's talking about the Hanford nuclear waste site, that's where they have nuclear waste buried. But most of the nuclear waste in this country is buried under human now in desert caves deep below the ground. But look, I don't sleep. If you put nuclear waste, a few thousand feet below the surface of soil in containers in Arizona, I'm not losing any sleep. Number one, nobody lives there. Number two, that stuff will decay over 10,000 years, and it won't be an issue 10,000 years from now.
10 to 15. Yeah. So the concept behind that is salt, right? So they dug it up with salt and stuff like that. So, but the barrels will deteriorate over time, but it'll be deep into the earth. If you put up signs, like say if you built a structure, a warehouse or whatever, you put up signs, it's not going to last 10,000 years. Plus, who's going to understand the language in another couple thousand years, whatever you wrote on that sign? But by putting it in the ground the way they're doing it, when the barrels deteriorate and stuff, the salt will collapse on the barrels anyway and stuff and absorb it, so it's not going to go anywhere. That was the concept, or to my understanding.
No, it is true. It's fascinating. An excellent book I have talking about the 6 materials that make the world possible. Modern world, without them, we couldn't see it. And many of them are just things that are just not really that come to mind. I mean, you might think of rare earth elements, but no, things as basic as sand, which is one of the most critical elements and one of the most abundant. But sand is not sand. Is not sand. Is not sand. There are different types of sand, and in fact, the world's entire microprocessor industry relies on a type of sand found in the United Kingdom in one location. And without that sand, we wouldn't have the world we have today. And so that's used to make mirrors that are used to produce microprocessors at a single plant, where the machine that does it costs $740 million, only one in the world like that. And without that, that plant is in the Netherlands. So you need the UK, you need the Netherlands to produce these microprocessors. And then many of them are produced in Taiwan after that, where they're assembled in rooms where not a human being goes into, all done by robotics. It's amazing. So that's sand. And then we also have, of course, in addition to sand, we've got salt. Salt is one of the most important elements we have out there. And salt is not salt is not salt. There's different types of salt, different varieties for different purposes, whether it's, melting snow on roads, or it's nutrition for table salt, or it's salt used in a host of other applications to make chemicals in modern chemical industry. It's amazing what we take for granted. So that's 2 of the elements. Iron is another one, and there's more. But the point is that there's many of these substances out there that people just take for granted, don't realize, and how important they are to the world. And I'm not sure why I got off in that direction. Oh, the salt caves. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, the caves.
Yeah. So in Texas, Louisiana, of course, we have the National Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which I think is supposed to have something like 500 million barrels of oil, or 600 million at one point. That's a lot of oil, and it's stored in salt caves. It's just poured right down in there, and the stuff sits there, and on a rainy day, we need it. And if you're Joe Biden and inflation is running rampant, I guess it's a rainy day. So you draw down the stocks and you burn the stuff out to where 2/3 of it's removed to keep Joe Biden, from being impeached. Oh, did you hear Joe Biden's coming out with a memoir?
You mean a book?
Promise,
was America Promise? What was it?
Promise Me America or something like that?
Yeah, Promise Me America. So he wrote a book originally, was his son Bo, Promise Me Dad, or something like that. It was about his deceased son, and then so he changed the title to Promise Me America, which is kind of a strange title for what the book's supposed to be about, I think.
I understand it. It's a pop-up book, and it comprises about a dozen pages, and you can find it in the junior adult section of Barnes & Noble.
I thought it was going to be a lot of like incoherent rhetoric, and ending with a lot of "oh mans" and "come on man," and a lot of talks about ice creams and different types of ice creams and the way to devour ice cream and stuff like that.
I'm just curious if he remembers he wrote a memoir.
Yeah. That is
my mind's going blank.
I'm pretty sure they said it was an autobiography. I'm pretty sure it was Autopen that did it.
An Autopen, yeah. There's going to be so many jokes about this Biden book coming out. It's funny because these leftists always write these books, and nobody buys them. Nobody buys it. I just bought a book by Mike Pence. I know some conservatives don't like Mike Pence, but I bought the book because I find it interesting. So it's too bad that not everybody likes Mike Pence. I mean, they expected Mike Pence to break the law and certify or not certify the Electoral College, but that wasn't an option under the Constitution and under federal law. He did his role he's supposed to. And a lot of people can't forgive for that.
No, they got the misunderstanding that he could do something he really could not do. Now he could bring votes up for question if they're questionable, from my understanding.
Right. And that did happen.
The deliberation between both houses of Congress and stuff, and they'd have to go back and talk, and they get so much time, and all it would have done was just stall the inevitable.
Exactly right, and it really wouldn't have accomplished anything. But I do have a beef with Mike Pence, even though I met him. I told you in Chicago at the airport. I was the only person in the freaking airport in Chicago. 40,000 people wandered through that recognized the Vice President of the United States. That was pretty entertaining. I think the cops that were escorting him were amused by that. But Mike Pence, He did start running his mouth about Trump after the fact, and I think being disloyal, which is I have a problem with that. It's one thing for a cabinet secretary to be an ass, but for the former vice president. But nonetheless, I bought his book. It's called "What Conservatives Believe: Rediscovering Conservative Conscience." This is the book right here for the viewing audience, but the radio obviously can't see that. Mike Pence. It's significant. It's not one of these little, what's her name there? I can't. Britney Spears books of 20 pages or something like that. It's an actual book. But some of the chapters are One Nation Under God. The first freedom is the right to life. Defending religious liberty, free speech, the Second Amendment. Keeping faith with the Constitution. Law and order from the neighborhood to the border. Economic freedom, the American dream. Confronting the national debt. A new birth of federalism. School choice, patriotic education. Equality of opportunity. Strengthening the traditional family. Peace through strength. Standing up for our enemies. Standing with our allies. The case for Israel. Our Brave New World, and Conservative Statesmanship. I look forward to reading it, which won't happen anytime soon. I've got too many books to read, but it's interesting to see that book come out. I'm not really interested in Joe Biden's book, unless I've got somebody I don't like. Maybe I'll send it to them.
I'm sure Joe Biden's book's got a lot of big pictures.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure it'll talk a lot about Bo.
No, go back to Mike Pence. I'm delighted to hear he did write a book. I kind of like him. I value his opinion about things myself. I think he's an intelligent man. Thing about Mike Pence is he's not flashy. He's not like Donald Trump. He doesn't have that kind of charisma like Trump has. He's more of a quiet man, laid back. He's not in everybody's face about everything. So I don't think he's ever really got the attention that, well, I guess maybe he deserves, you might say.
That's fair. I agree. That's fair. Trump is definitely flashy. I mean, look at the Oval Office, man. It looks like Fort Knox now. There's gold everywhere.
I don't know anybody's more of an extrovert at the moment.
Yeah, he's definitely out there. I wish he'd be more out there on destroying Iran. It looks like he's finally coming around to where we want him to now. It's taken him 3 months to get there.
Yeah, I think, he's trying to bring Iran back to talks, I think, but the way he's talking anyway, he's putting it out there. Oh, yeah, they want us to come to the table now. See, we've got them beat. And I'm like, yeah, they're buying more time, bro. Just finish the job.
Did you see that 103 Democrats voted to cut off assistance to Israel? And only 98 opposed it. So 10 voted absent. So basically more Democrats want to hurt Israel than want to help Israel. That's disturbing. This has always been a bipartisan issue.
This is the same body of people that wanted to dump everything we have into Ukraine. And now, obviously, they don't want to assist Israel, who's an ally too. And it needs it desperately, considering the circumstances. I mean, it's part of what Trump is doing there, isn't it? I mean, he's trying to cool the Mideast. He's trying to get these people off Israel's back. It's been only 50 years that we know of. It's been longer than that. That Israel's been way longer. What has it been, 80 years? Just about. Israel's been under attack.
Well, since its formation, 1948, they've been going after it. So, yeah, quite a while. So I've been unable to go to the Carlisle Barracks for the past 2 days. Do you know why?
Oh, yeah, because Trump's having a meeting there with the what was it, CENTCOM, right? Talking about...
No, with business leaders and with military, the military industrial complex that everyone was warned about. Trump touts a $10 billion investment in defense industry in Pennsylvania with Senator Dave McCormick, who's also a rising star. He's a billionaire, former Army captain, West Pointer, who became a hedge fund guy and made $1 billion and then ran for the Senate twice. And he won by the skin of his teeth this last time. I've met Dave McCormick. He's not a bad guy, but he's one of our senators, along with, of course, Uncle Fester. But he organized a 2-day summit, and they're highlighting $10 billion in recent investments in arms and technology for vendors across Pennsylvania, expected to support as many as 4,000 jobs here in the Commonwealth. And Pennsylvania workers will build the ships, the submarines, the trucks, the weapons industries that will ensure America remains the strongest and most powerful nation in the history of the world, says Trump. Pete Hegseth and Kelly Loeffler were there, as well as 600 business executives from 500 different organizations. And that includes JP Morgan, CEO Jamie Dimon, Blackstone, Chief Operating Officer John Gray, Lockheed Martin's President and CEO Jim Teichlet. Among the recent deals is a 10-year partnership valued at $2.5 billion between Rhodes Industries and General Dynamics Electric Boat to support submarine construction at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. Yeah, so big event. They canceled medical appointments. Nobody was allowed to go on the installation except those necessary for this. Understandable. It's a small installation, and they want to have control of things. So the people that live on the post obviously can live there, but all the workers at the work college were told to work remotely for the past 2 days. And they shut the clinic down. So if you had appointments, you're screwed. Dental clinic, health clinic, and exchange all closed. Commissary. Nobody was allowed to go in the gate. So I didn't even bother going there.
Oh wow. Yeah, a lot of people, you hear these big names like that, and a lot of people have concerns about corporations and corporate influence on government. But when you look at the past, it's taken some pretty big names to pull this country through at times. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it, but JP Morgan pulled this country out of two financial circumstances going on here, and it was a great deal of work for him.
Well, I don't have any issues with the JP Morgan Bank or the history of the country with Andrew Carnegie or JP Morgan. Both of them gave back in major ways, as well as Vanderbilt, but all of them made their money. Vanderbilt in trains, and Morgan made his in banking. And of course, Carnegie made his in steel. I have no problems with that. But yeah, listen, I'm interested in full disclosure. I have shares in JP Morgan, but that's because I was a Bank One shareholder for many years. And Bank One gobbled up First Chicago and moved the headquarters from Columbus, Ohio to Chicago. Then they gobbled up JP Morgan and renamed the bank JP Morgan to keep the iconic name. And now they're based in New York. And Jamie Dimon is one of the most brilliant bankers in the world. Unfortunately, he said a few stupid things recently, which really irritated me, but most of what he says is pretty spot on. But Jamie Dimon is a smart guy, but he'll be leaving the stage before too long. He's been doing this for a long, long time, and he'll get replaced. So we'll see what happens there.
They may not be in the Big Apple any longer either. They're looking to diversify now. Some of Dallas has been.
I would expect to see them move to North Carolina, Florida, or Texas. Most likely North Carolina with its big banking sector. Yep.
Yeah, some of them are looking to get out of. You got somebody like Mom Donnie there, and they're like, yeah, you know what? These taxes are incredible. I just loved watching the governor. She's begging, we need you millionaires to come back. We were counting on them taxes from you to pay for our social programs.
Well, New York State has lost $10 billion in revenue by chasing millionaires away. $10 billion annually.
Wow.
That's crazy. I mean, that's 20% of the budget of the state. And when I moved here, that was 1/3 of the budget, but they've been increasing the budget, from $30 to $50 billion a year. And that's just the money the state spends of its own money. That doesn't include all the grant money they get from highways at the federal level and all the other things. No, so that's a huge chunk of our entire budget. They've lost that to the state of New York. No wonder the place is so messed up.
But what's concerning is, here Mom Donnie being dubbed as a kingmaker, that he's having a lot of influence, a lot of money is flowing through him to get people elected into positions sort of like his in other parts of the country. You seen any of that, or are you have any concerns about that?
Not here, but in New York, he does have influence there, and they've helped get people in Buffalo and Rochester elected to government who are Democratic Socialists. But I mean, all that the Republicans and the Democrats, if they care to save this country, all they need to do is download the YouTube video of the Democratic Socialists of America's convention in 2020 and make commercials out of that. These people are dumber than rocks. It's like point of order. Some of us have sensory issues. Please stop clapping your hands. Just wave your hands like this. And then 5 minutes later, point of order. Some of us are disturbed by wild, rapid movements. Please don't shake your hands. What?
I saw it. It was funny. But, you think, oh, my God, that must have been a comic skit or something, right? But then I saw another video from Canada with liberal left.
Yeah,
and they had colors basically coded on if you were male, if you were female. So it was an order of which you get to speak. And a transgender gets up there and goes, well, I don't think that's fair because she got to speak for me, but I'm also a female and a transgender, and I understand she's a female too, but I'm a transgender, so I should have got to speak. I'm like, are you serious? You're quabbling over who got to speak first? You really give a crap? As long as you got to say your piece, who cares?
I mean, it's just, look, they're just crazy. Yeah, the one is the 2019, moving up to the 20, the Democratic Socialist American National Convention. You watch these people and you realize just what wackadoodles they really are. They're insane. Please do not use gendered pronouns. Hi, Dave Hidalgo, she, them, we, they, us. Please don't assume my gender. Are you serious? Good Lord. And then they have, for those who have sensory issues, we have a room where there's no video, no audio. Oh, that would be called a bedroom. Go back to your hotel and sleep.
No video and no audio. Why are you there?
I mean, seriously, it's, oh my gosh. You got to, these people, there's a national convention in 2019. That's right. I mean, it's insane how stupid these people are. But
these are the jokes that write themselves.
Oh, they do. Look, I mean, you need Dave Chappelle to spend 5 minutes ripping this thing apart. He would. And what's the guy, Jimmy from the UK? That funny guy. He's hilarious. He would destroy this. Yeah, I can't think of his last name.
Is he the one that was doing all the Grammys or whatever. And
well, he's got all that still that laugh. He laughs like that.
Oh no, I don't think that's who I'm thinking of. There was one guy that was really just giving it back to Hollywood, English guy. He was doing all the introductions at the Grammys or something, but basically telling them how much they stink at the same time, and had him laughing about it.
Jimmy Carr, that's who it is. Jimmy Carr. That's what I was thinking of. Jimmy Carr. Yeah, that guy's hilarious. He puts it right back on people. I love how he works a crowd. The his timing is perfect. It's just absolutely brilliant. Yeah. But Jimmy Carr, yeah, I love to see Jimmy Carr deal with the National Socialist American Convention. That would be hilarious. Yeah, but point of order. What are we voting on? we're voting on an amendment to the amendment from yesterday's amendment that would allow us to do this so that we can complete this vote so we can have another amendment. What? Democratic Socialist America. My goodness. It's a crazy world. But anyway, yeah, so the Iran war is back on. It's on like Donkey Kong, John. Are you happy or are you apoplectically disappointed?
Well, I just want Trump to knock this regime out. I really do. I mean, like I said, I think it'd be the greatest thing for the whole world if they were gone. If we had this theocratic regime out of there, and whether they return the Shah back to Iran or what they do for their own republic, democracy, or whatever they want to call it over there, as long as you get somebody in there that can actually function as a nation again, and where people can prosper once again, and that nation could be one good, great standing nation the way it once was.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I mean, they've been the issue within the Mideast for how long now? I mean, like you said, they got proxy terrorists. They got people fighting wars for them against Israel.
Well, not just Israel, but against international shipping. The Houthis attack international ships in the Red Sea. We've got Hamas attacking Israel. We've got Hezbollah attacking Israel. And also these organizations have killed Americans in the past. All of them. Yep.
I forget who dubbed it, but somebody over there dubbed the United States of America as the Great Satan and Israel as the Little Satan.
Look, these people they have no idea. It's hilarious to see people from these shores spew their nonsense only to go someplace and then have something happen to them. They come running back here. The one exception is Rosie O'Donnell, and she can stay in Ireland. She never needs to come back as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know what country it was, but my wife was telling me about some transgenders that didn't trust the United States of America any longer because Trump's president. They're going to be persecuted. So where they go to a country where they have to be persecuted.
Well, Gays for Gaza. What a great concept.
Yeah. She was telling me about this today. I didn't get the details, but I thought it was interesting just hearing that somebody walked in their own trap. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't even do your own research before you go to a foreign country. You wouldn't pick up, Chris. You wouldn't take and say, I no longer want to live here in Pennsylvania. I think it's gone too far left. Maybe I'll relocate to Florida. But before you relocate to Florida, I'm assuming the way you think, you're probably going to say, but let me do a little market research. Let me get an idea where I'm going to, tax bases. Where do I benefit me best to move to in Florida? Where would I want to live to for my own greater benefit? You wouldn't just pick up and go, I'm just going to Daytona or I'm just going to Orlando just simply because, right?
No. Well, for instance, my retirement plan after leaving the military was within a year to move to either Bavaria, to Asham Kimyao area, or to move to New Zealand on the North Island. And the COVID scam started as I retired. And over the course of that year, when I couldn't travel, I got to watch just what kind of fascist, demented, lunatic, state-controlled fascists the Kiwis were in government, the leftists, and in Germany, and what they did to people. And I realized that, you know what? Even though I've spent a lot of time in Bavaria, I know all about it. I've spent many, many years of my life in Germany. I'm fluent in German. I understand the law. And in New Zealand, I've been there. Despite that, at my knowledge, after watching that, I realized that I could go there and I could be deported, lose any investment, any property that I bought into on a moment's notice because I'm a foreign national. I could be considered undesirable. I may be undesirable in America, but they can't kick me out because I'm an American. So
that's right.
Too bad for them.
That's right. So yeah, you would plan before you move. You wouldn't just say, I'm picking up stakes and I'm just going to land wherever I land. You're going to kind of get an idea what you're going to. So it's strange to me, people, they I don't like the United States of America anymore, so I'm going to defect to some other nation and just find themselves in a worse situation. It just baffles the mind.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have buyer's remorse. They think things are better. It's like they're always talking about Canada. Then they go to Canada and the vaulted health system sucks. It's not as good as they make it out to be. Just because drugs have controlled prices doesn't mean they have better healthcare in Canada, and they don't. And they find that Canada is cold.
Yeah.
And it's sparsely populated and lonely unless you're in a metropolitan area. And it's also full of people who aren't like them because Canada has been flooded by non-Anglo-Saxon, non-First Nations people for the past 30 years. And the cultural complexion has changed dramatically. Canada is no longer Canada. You know, they no longer even have hockey night in Canada on Saturday nights. What's that all about? I mean, that's like an institution. I was in Vancouver when the NBA finals were there and the Toronto Raptors were in the finals and people were watching that instead of the NHL. I'm like, what country is this? You couldn't be Canadian. Put the hockey on, eh?
Man, I can't picture Canadians that don't love hockey. I thought that was like it's either that or what's that other one there on where you throw the stone?
When you throw the stuff, huh?
The stone. I can't think of the name of it.
That's an Irish game.
No, not like shot put, the stone where you slide the stone across the floor on the ice.
Curling,
that's it. Thank you.
You don't slide across the floor, you slide it on the ice.
yeah, the ice. Well, the floor, it's just a nice floor. So yeah, I can't think of the simplest thing sometimes.
Curling, that's the one you're looking for. Curling is fun. That's a sport I could still play. I could become an Olympian at my age.
Yeah. Well, I like the Simpsons illustrating that where Marge threw her shoulder out.
I didn't see that. I don't watch the Simpsons.
Yeah, they were curling. They were into curling. She was with the broom, and I think it was Marge threw her shoulder.
Oh, that'll throw your shoulder out, man. You gotta, with that whisk, you gotta go very fast. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, full contact curling.
Hey, yeah, it's better than full contact football, that's for sure. It's a lot less injury. A lot fewer injuries.
At approaching 60 years of age, I'm not sure I want to get out there and just slam my body into somebody else at a high rate of speed while holding a piece of leather with a lot of air in it.
Well, into my 50s, I was still playing rugby.
It's fun, man. I grew up playing football. I love playing football, but yeah, when you sit in a truck for long periods of time going down the road, it's getting out there and start running and beating yourself up out there. Gets a little hard. Let's see what's this. Oh, yeah. He says John isn't a shuffleboard player, obviously.
Yeah,
I grew up in Florida, man. I remember shuffleboard. I don't know if I ever played it.
Shuffleboard to me is the thing that you always find on cruise ships. I've never played it.
Oh, Florida was full of them back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. They probably still have them. I remember New Smyrna Beach, where I'm from, over on Beachside there, Flagler Avenue. They had a courts out there. A lot of the old guys used to be out there playing it, but.
Well, like I said, shuffleboard is something I'm accustomed to seeing on cruise ships.
So you get the advantage when you're going over the crest. You launch it off at that point in time. Right? Go, hey, I'm getting gravitational pull on this one.
Well, I guess that would help, being at sea. But yeah, no, I don't do cruises. I've done a few of them. They're not really my cup of tea. The idea of being cooped up on a ship out at sea with a bunch of people, it sounds lovely. And some of the ships are beautiful. I mean, the second time I was on a cruise ship was the second or third time. Anyway, I went from Stockholm in Sweden to Helsinki in Finland on the Silja line. And the ship was only a couple months old. I came on the ship, parked the car underneath, came on the ship. And then in the main area where you walk in, they had these huge chandeliers and shops everywhere. And they had a McDonald's on board and a movie theater. It was pretty wild. And I'm like, wow, cruise ship's pretty good. But then I did a couple cruises in the Caribbean. And if I want to hang out with white trash, I'll go home to Ohio.
Oh, geez. I thought maybe doing cruises was fun, but they had that long period of time. It seemed like every time you turned on the TV, it was some cruise ship at port somewhere with everybody coming off sick.
Yeah, well, then we had the cruise ship that went to the Antarctica and all these people were spreading disease. You saw that recently, right?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. They went to Antarctica, but they stopped in Argentina and picked up hantavirus. And yeah.
Oh,
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I mean, what are you going to do? You're all at ship, I mean, look, they make it all seem so glamorous, The love boat soon will be dancing.
Oh, geez, I actually used to watch that.
We're expecting you, and love won't hurt anymore.
What's really worrying me is the fact that the whole opening sequence.
Oh, because as a kid, I love that show, man. Julie, I was in love. I was a teenage crush on Julie.
Oh, yeah. Who didn't love Julie?
Yeah.
The sweetheart of the Love Boat.
Yeah, no, and you had Gopher running around and Captain Stubing, and so yeah, it was it was a good show. It's the Love Boat. It was pretty cool for its time. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
We all watched Wonder Woman for a reason too.
Yes, Linda Gray. Yes, absolutely. I
Linda
watched
Gray,
that.
Carter.
Oh, Linda Carter. Sorry, Linda. Well, Linda Gray was from Buck Rogers' 25th Century. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah,
good
Linda
too.
Gray.
Yeah,
She was hotter than Linda Carter.
Yeah, somebody just brought up, it is worth mentioning. Now they have parasites in the lettuce.
Cristosporia. Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff.
From what I read about that, that is from using human feces during farming periods, if I'm not
Cyclospora.
mistaken.
Probably. It's like we get outbreaks of hepatitis from raspberries and strawberries because illegal aliens who don't wash their hands were picking our fruit, or they were shipping it up from Honduras and Mexico and places like that, and we were importing it and bringing hepatitis in. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. Years ago, we used to not import from certain countries for that reason, and they seem to lower the standards. I don't know why.
Well, now instead of domestically producing pet food, we import dog and cat food from China, where they poison our dogs and cats and kill tens of thousands of them with ethyl glycol.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, well, we've had that happen here several years back.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. There was some kind of rumor that the person who was administrator of that company or whatever was his life was terminated.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah.
Shame. I'm like,
in China,
you guys don't have any shame in China. We see how you do business. You're robbing us of proprietary information all the time.
Well, we caught another 63 Chinese spies recently. We also caught a South African spy last week. I don't know if you saw that at the Oak Ridge National Nuclear Laboratory in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yep. Caught another spy, a South African spy. But the South African government's like, we don't understand why the Americans are angry at us. Really? I'm sorry. Do you mind if I date your daughter, knock her up, and leave town? Oh, that doesn't bother you? Sure. Send her my way. Come on.
Oh, man.
Good Lord. And someone mentioned Argentinian beef. Look, there's no problem with it bringing Argentinian beef into the country. It's a delicacy. It's popular. But the problem we have is we don't have enough road beef because of the mismanagement of our herds and because people like Bill Gates and Ted Turner are buying up millions of acres of grazing land, and we've reduced our herds in this country. We've got a serious problem here.
Yeah. Back in the Bundy days with the standoffs and stuff, they were culling their herds. The government itself was taking it upon itself to cull their herds.
Oh, did you see the federal government? Now, I'm waiting for the outcome of this. The dramatic rise in egg prices at the end of the Biden regime's term in office wasn't simply because they killed 60 million hens with this false claim of Asian avian flu, when they killed 60 million hens across the country. They're laying eggs. But apparently there's also collusion. They've got the emails between the executives of these three big egg producers around the country, control a big portion of the market, where they're colluding to fix the price and drive the price higher and keep it high. I think they got them dead to rights. The Trump administration, Department of Justice, going after them. I hope they all go to prison.
Yeah, well, that should be some antitrust violations right there. Guarantees you at least a slap on the wrist.
Well, let's hope it guarantees a prison term. There was a time when we had the taste for putting the executives in prisons. Ken Lay from Enron and Bernie Ebbers from WorldCom. And with those sad newses, I think we're getting close to the top of the hour. Or that was a motorcycle going by.
No, we're close. We're like,
Bernie Ebbers died in prison. I think Ken Lay also died in prison. Yep.
Yeah, no, somebody brought up about our pesticides and stuff in our food. And, you're right. We're not without our own faults over here. People didn't used to have allergies against things like gluten and all these other things that are going on now with foods over here. But we did have higher standards in using human feces for fertilizer.
Oh, come on, John. People complain about pesticides. Where do you think the flavor comes from? Stop your whining.
Yeah, the flavor. That's what gives it that nice, tangy, almost like
it's like the reason I eat Maryland blue crabs, steamed crabs, is because they're different than Louisiana and Carolina. All the mercury, the lead, the cadmium that's leached into Chesapeake Bay gives them a special taste.
That's right. So, we just got a couple seconds here, Chris. I guess
synthetic beef is not beef. Soylent Green is people. Don't eat it.
And that's our cue right there, ladies and gentlemen. We have reached the top of the hour. We hope you got something out of tonight's show, learned a little something, or at least had some fun. Join us again next week, same time, same place. Until then, God bless and take care.